Okay, Assalamu alaikum. Hope you're having a nice first day of Ramadan. I'm not fasting, I'm diabetic. Last year was my first full year of fidya. In fact, the year before, I only made it till the 17th of Ramadan. And then I just paid the whole month fidya. So last year I paid before the time, and this year I'm also going to be paying fidya because I just can't anymore. If you're diabetic, then don't fight it. Just it's not nice to not be fasting when everybody else is fasting. It actually is terrible. You have to find a place to eat after the buck. Yeah, but anyway, I thought today I'll make a video about the Mi'raj. Just very quickly, on the night of Mi'raj, the Nabi traveled from his house all the way to Masjidul Quds. And then from Masjidul Quds, he ascended into the heavens right through, all the way, and he appeared before Allah. And I don't know if you know the story because they don't talk about it anymore because it's supposed to be, you've got Europhysicists being short sighted and they only see up until, I think they see up until the Hubble barrier because that's how far Hubble can see, which is 13.8 billion light years away. Now that's short sighted because there's a whole, okay, they do say it goes up to 46 billion light years away, right? So that is a barrier. That is a barzakh. It's mentioned in the Quran. The Nabi said that all the dead souls are in the barzakh. That's the Arabic word that gets used. It's like a halfway house because Jannah and Jahannam is not open yet. And Jannah is right at the edge there by the final barrier. It's on the inside. So, in other words, it's in the universe. It has to be, okay? Because if you watch the previous video that I made, then I explained that in the Quran, Allah explains that beyond the final barrier is Nurullah, al-Dhulumat, the darknesses, water that is created or was created, and Arshullah is on the water. That's all. There's no understanding, there's no time, there's no people, no trees, no nothing. So there's no how do you build a palace for yourself on the dunya there? I mean, you can't go there. And I actually found out that Jannah is just inside the dunya, just by the final barrier, by the Lot tree, which is the tree. People who are Arabic speaking would immediately understand what it has a lot of significance. The Lot tree, like the tree of knowledge. If you watched the Turkish series Ertugrul Bay, and then you'd see that they're very about big trees with huge branches, So that Islamic Middle East understanding is all about trees, like the tree of growth and the tree of knowledge and family trees and all of that, I suppose. I don't know. But so that means that Jahannam, which we don't like to talk about, must also be in the universe because it's a fire. A fire, there's no fire beyond the final barrier. There's nothing like a fire. There isn't even the concept of a fire. So on that night, on Laylatul Qadr, no, sorry, on the night of the Mi'raj, the Nabi left his house and he went to Masjidul Quds, and then from Masjidul Quds he went up through the Sab'a Samawat, the seven heavens. Now, for the Nabi to have done this, he couldn't have done it in bodily form. He had to do it in light form, which in other words, he did it in soul, his nur, his soul went there because only you can only your body can't travel at that kind of speed, and he traveled at light speed because he said Allah shortened time for him. Now physics explains it to you. So we got Europhysicists and we got donkey stupid Muslims who know nothing about physics. All right. I mean, so they see on TV and all of this Europhysicists talking about, religious people are mad, they're crazy, and how can you go? When the Nabi came back, the Quraysh and the enemies of the Nabi in Makkah, was it Makkah or Medina? Um, no, I think it was in Makkah, yeah. In any case, it doesn't matter where it was, but the Quraysh ran to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anh, and they said to him, now you must believe your friend is loony, he's mad, he's majnoon. Abu Bakr didn't even ask what did Muhammad say. All he said was, if Muhammad says he did whatever you're talking about, then I believe him. Ya Rab. That is why the Nabi said that he heard the footsteps of Abu Bakr in Jannah, to come. He gave a prediction. And yet Abu Bakr still said to the bird, you don't have to worry. Your destination is Jannah. Your soul, your little birdie soul, the nur inside of you is just going to Jannah. So there's birds and animals and trees and everything in the barzakh right now. There's people who say that the trees and the plants listen to them when they talk, and the water forms beautiful shapes when you talk to it nicely, and if you talk to it harshly, then it forms ugly shapes. There's truth in that. These things it's like they got a soul. And so that is why the barzakh is so big. If you take 13.8 billion light years away, and you take 46 billion and you subtract the two, you get roughly 33 billion. That's how big the barzakh is. It has to be so big because all the souls that ever were created is there. 33 billion light years away. Everybody's over there. All your parents, whoever passed away of you, they're all there. And they cannot come back to this dunya. They can't. The Nabi said, there's a barrier between us and them. The barzakh, it's that. They're there. They're in the barrier. They can't come this way. They've never. Do you know anybody who came here? And if you do know, that people that have this, like, I'm speaking to your dead father now, and he says you must give me 50,000 of your inheritance. They're lying because they can't. There's no way they can. The barrier works this way and that way. And you know, okay, I don't want to get personal now, but that's what the barzakh is. So you've got a very nice picture of how the universe looks. The final barrier, and then the Hubble barrier, and then you've got the galaxies, and then the stars, and then the Earth is in one of the galaxies, with our sun, the star, being the closest one, and Alpha Centauri is the second closest one. And it looks like a star from here, but from far away the sun also looks like that, like a star. We just see it as a glowing orb because we are relatively close to it, but it's a star. It burns it takes two heliums and nuclear fuses it into a hydrogen, letting off a lot of heat and energy, other forms of electromagnetic waves. Because light is an electromagnetic wave. You learn this in physics. There's an electromagnetic spectrum of visible light, and X-rays and gamma rays and all kinds of electromagnetic waves, and they can travel through space. They say they can travel through the void, which is the nothing, and we say that the void is not nothing, it's the darknesses. You can see it, and you can drown in it. You can drown in water. That's how you can drown in the darknesses, because you can breathe there, but you still drown. If you're in water, you can breathe in the water, but you'll drown because you don't get oxygen in. Same thing. Water has waves and particles of H2O molecules. The darknesses have waves, and it has particles of E equals mc squared quark creations or atom creations. But it's happening very quickly. E to M, M to E, E to M. Remember, the C squared is just a number, a huge number. because it's 3,8 times 3,8 times 10 to the 8. That's the number. And so that's a huge number, 10 to the 8. And then you multiply it by itself, so it's going to be 10 to the 16. And that is multiplied by the mass to show you how much energy you get. You get a lot of energy from one piece of mass. That is why they use the hydrogen atom, which was the smallest thing that they could get, one proton, one neutron, one electron, and they converted it into energy. And they got a lot, so they use quite a bit of hydrogen. Not a lot, they use a little, and it made a huge bang. And then they use plutonium, of course, which is a much, much bigger atom, radioactive atom, and then they got an even bigger bang. So, I'm convinced that the Iranians are busy discussing. They say the Iranians have got atomic weapons. They've got atomic energy production stuff, like we have here at Koeberg in South Africa. We use atomic energy to heat water, to turn steam turbines, Faraday motors that generate electricity. And to use that stuff domestically like that, that is highly acceptable. It's halal in Islam. I was told many, many years ago in the 1980s that there are 7 different ways of vetting something new to find out whether it's actually acceptable in Islam. I was told this about computers back when I was selling computers. They said, how do you know computers are halal? So now you can't, but you can't explain to them about al-Khwarizmi and mathematics and all of that, and about like a knife is also halal and haram. So a computer is also halal and haram. So it depends on the person what he wants to use it for. If somebody is going to use a computer to hack you or steal monies from somewhere, then that is mus haram. But the person is haram, not the computer, because that same computer can be used to develop an AI to help fight cancer, or something else like that. And who's going to question whether that is halal or haram? So yeah, to get back to the Mi'raj, do you know that if you travel from here to 46 billion light years away, do you know how much time will elapse for you? You know how much time? Zilch, zero. T equals zero. Surprise. And that is why the Nabi said that Allah Ta'ala shortened time for him. The Nabi wasn't educated. He couldn't say that time dilated in it. If you travel from here, right, and you go slowly to outer space, as you go further and further, you're going to leave the Milky Way galaxy, right? Then time dilates. In fact, if you go from here to just outside Earth's orbit, then time changes. It becomes 0,0000000 something 237 or something less. And did you know that GPS systems, they use that dilated time? You can actually call that Einstein's time, because Einstein taught everybody that time dilates. In other words, it changes. Like your pupil dilates, it gets smaller or bigger. So time dilates. And if they must use Newtonian time in GPS satellites, then your Uber will come 150 meters away from you. That's how inaccurate it will be. Now, they use Einstein's time. They use dilated time. And then it's still 2 to 3 meters out. It says within 2 to 3 meters. And that is because they do not use the darknesses, or they do not think it's a void and it's got no thing. Then they say it's dark matter, but they still don't take it into consideration. If it's got mass, then it's going to affect time. Now, if they use my calculation in GPS, then they can drop an apple on your head from outer space. It'll be accurate because there's nothing else to add in. Okay, maybe wind and all of that. But I just mean when they can drop it accurately, that 2 to 3 meters won't be out in that calculation. And I've got the calculation on my. I used AI to calculate it. XM on it. So but still, I have to still prove the darknesses. That is a mathematical calculation. And they must are not going to take a calculation from my brain unless I make my own satellites like Elon Musk and send one up and then use my calculation with my GPS system. I'm getting ideas now. But then I need a lot of money for that. So I need to finish my thing now when I'm finished with this video. For those of you who don't know, I'm accepted at Qatar Science and Technopark. I just came home for Ramadan. And then the week after Eid, I'm going to go back there. I need to be at the desk there. I'm sitting at my South African desk here, freaking out because FNB is messing me around. They hacked me on FNB. I'm a computer scientist, but they scammed me. Uber. Okay, FNB got my money back, but now I can't pay for my plane ticket. They actually locked me out of my own bank account. I mean, I can get in, but I can't pay. I can't. They think I'm scamming. I'm trying to buy a plane ticket for somebody else. A scammer. A scammer is trying to buy a plane ticket to go to Qatar. Yeah. So, do you know that? So, as you go out from Earth, time gets shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter until you get to the final barrier. Then time, as you get, we're going to do in grade 12, we're going to do limits in maths, right? So the limit of t as you get to the final barrier, it's zero. Yeah, it can't go negative. You can't go back in time. Don't listen to them. I mean, you have to listen to them and write what they say. But in truth, you cannot go back in time. You can't time travel backwards. They figure out then this is going to happen and that's going to happen. The limit, how can you have minus 3t? When the rockets take over, they say t minus 12, t. But you can't get a negative t. The limit is zero, nothing, zilch. And you don't get nothing. The void isn't nothing. Are you following me? So when the Nabi got there, then T was zero. And when he went beyond the final barrier, the Nabi was given that permission because he appeared in front of Allah. And Allah Ta'ala told him, tell your followers to make salah 50 times a day. And then, he came back, Nabi Musa met him and said, yeah, you know that those people are not going to do it. When I tried, they don't listen. They listen. I mean, the minute you turn your back, then they go do other kind of stuff. They go back to their old ways. Go back and go ask for a shortened time. And then the Nabi did it, up and down. And eventually it came to 5, and Nabi Musa still told him they won't be able to make 5 times a day either. So the Nabi said, no, man, I can't go. I can't go back again now. And then he left it like that. So the Nabi came with a message that we must make salah 5 times a day with times and all the stuff, postures and what we must do. And every time I'm finished making salah, then I get all these ideas that I'm talking about now. All the gaps in the things that I don't have. I just get the answer like mass equals volume times density. It just popped into my head. And I think this happened to Einstein also, man, like the theory of relativity and time dilation and all this stuff. He could, it's amazing how he could think. Even Michael Faraday also, he was a Christian, he was a man of God. He said, God makes all these things happen, so I want to know how he does it. So if you live in this void, in this ball where everything is in the universe, and then you guess about this, Elon Musk says that we are in simulations of simulations of simulations. So there's like a whole lot of universes. He got TV games on his mind. I think he watched too many movies. It's for sin. There's only one universe. Allah says that the Nabi was sent as a rahmatu lil alameen. Right? He didn't say rahmatu lil muslimin. That is a mercy to the Muslims. The Nabi wasn't sent as a mercy to the Muslims. He was sent as a Muslim to everybody. Alamin means everybody, all the worlds. So maybe there are more than one universe. I don't know. But Allah says in the Quran, at the end of times, Yawm al Qiyamah, the day of reckoning, of judgment, where you will come forth and your hands will respond to what you did. Your feet will say, no, no, he walked to all the wrong places, or he walked to the masjid, or, your feet will talk about you. And on that day, Allah Ta'ala will take the whole universe and roll it up like a scroll. The entire universe will be rolled up like a scroll. So I don't think there's more than one universe. But it's interesting that the universe will be rolled up like a scroll, because it makes you think of a page, a flat page. And I know the fourth dimension out there in between the galaxies, that is on a flat plane. The galaxies are thin and flat. Yeah, so there's a lot of physics in the Quran, and you must look at it in that way. Our Maulanas and Alims and stuff, they don't know physics. If they did, they wouldn't be Maulanas. And yet the scholars of old, 1,000 years ago, they were Islamic scholars and they were physicists, mathematicians, astronomers. They had to be, because they had to find out how do you work out Qibla. And they had to travel to Makkah to go on Hajj and Umrah. And they built ships and they built astrolabes, a thing like that where you can check your direction by the stars. That's how they navigated the oceans, way out to the middle of the ocean. I mean, Vasco da Gama came and hired a pilot in Zanzibar to go across the ocean. He was Tupang. He sailed all along the west coast of Africa, all the way to right around. If you know your geography, you can see you can travel within sight of land. Just in case something happened, you can swim to the land. Right around to Zanzibar. In Zanzibar, he got a pilot. In fact, the name of that pilot, his name is known. He's a Muslim pilot. And Vasco da Gama took him on board, went right across the ocean, mapped the stuff out like the pilot was mapping it with his astrolabe. And then he went back to Spain and he said, I found the sea route to the east. I suppose he did. So, yeah. So, when the Nabi came back, do you know that he accidentally hit over one of those big water urns, where they keep water in their house. That urn, he knocked it over. And when he came back, the urn was still like going gluk, gluk, gluk. The water was still leaving the urn. So he went to Masjid al-Quds on the Buraq. He went to right out of the universe. Okay, that you can understand, because time dilated and, time just dilated because he traveled in light form at the speed of light, if not faster. Nowadays, they know you can travel faster there are things that travel faster than the speed of light. So what we are doing now, we are using physics to study how the Nabi did that. It wasn't a case where, if you look at the Mi'raj, nowhere does it say Allah said kun fayakun and the Nabi was there, like be and it is. It doesn't say that. It says the Nabi went from his house to Masjid al-Quds, and then from Masjid al-Quds he ascended. So it was the Isra, and then it was the Mi'raj. Isra wal Mi'raj, the Isra and the Mi'raj. And that's how he did it. He actually did it. He didn't like poof and then he was there. It wasn't magic or madness or you mustn't talk about it because it makes you sound stupid. No, you are stupid. That's why you don't talk about it. Because you don't understand it, you don't know what's going on. And then you make people shy of the deen because we stupid, we mad people. They say someone a Kiwi, the Christian man, they say he's mal. Oh, God, they say God didn't God. Anyway, let me just think. What did I leave out now? So, yeah, so there's a lot of physics just there in that Mi'raj, and that is why I speak about that. And I criticize the Muslim world for being so head in the ground, like ostriches, and only living according to Quran and Sunnah, so that people who go study medicine and all that, and doctors and lawyers and computer scientists like me or mathematicians, they automatically assume that they can't be like Salih, because the Maulanas don't want them to talk. No, you can't talk about that. You must talk about mathematics. You're a mathematician. We talk about Quran and Sunnah. You can't learn about that. Jy sê jy regte Muslim, jy's mathematics. You study mathematics and make you kafir. So we must say, oh, too much. Because you don't teach them Quran, Sunnah, Qira, all of that with mathematics. The best mathematicians 1,000 years ago, they were the best, better than any mathematician now. And they were good at Quran, Sunnah, fiqh, Arabic, Fusha Arabic, everything. The whole idea of kafir didn't even come into their mind. That is why they could go out of the box, completely past the final barrier, and learn about the realm of Allah, where Allah exists. They understood about Nurullah, how Allah blew His Nur, of Allah's Nur is in you. That's why you are the vicegerent of Allah. You are the representative of Allah. Inside you, we don't know where, maybe your whole body is Nur. Light, Nurullah, in you. Allah blew it in you. That's where your soul comes from. Your understanding. You are made of a mind here, your body and a soul. And that is you. You are your soul. Your mind goes into your grave. Your body goes into your grave. And you must treat it properly because it will be resurrected. It turns into all atoms and stuff. The worm eats it and craps it out, and it goes into the soil, and it comes up as compost, and then the plants come up. Then part of you is the plant. That's why the English say you're pushing up daisies. It means he's dead. He's underground, he's pushing daisies up. It's kind of true. Then a cow comes, eats the plants, craps it out. So then you are a pile of crap. So if somebody says to you, you a pile of shit, then you say, not yet, I'm still going to be one. And not all of me, only some of me is going to be. And it gets recycled. But on Yawm al-Qiyamah, your body will be made into your body again. So they told the Nabi, what is wrong with you? Are you mad? So the Nabi said, but look at the plant just appears there out of the ground. How does that happen? Now, today's people will say, if a piece of you, like take somebody who was born 500 years ago, where's his body now? It's like in a tree, in a plant, in a donkey, in a cow, in a horse, in a bird, like all these molecules. It's all over the show. So it's not possible, man. Are you trying to tell me God is keeping track of every single molecule of every single person? Because if you look at it from that level, then you take an ant, for example. An ant is made up of billions of atoms. And all those, where do those atoms come from? They come from the soil, they come from people, they come from plants, they come from, you know what I'm saying? So is God keeping track? Like, is God going to take all those atoms from all those billions of things and say, this must go there, this must go there, this must go there? Just think for a minute, If everything about you is taken a snapshot of you, then there's no need to keep track of it. That snapshot can just be put back again in like a fraction of a second. So you will be reconstituted. Somebody's at my office.